I thought that although we all knew it was going to happen, I thought that the idea of moving a Premier League game would, at 5 days' notice, would cause more of a fuss in the media. But it's only Burnley and Luton, so who gives a shit? There's more important things. Hi, my name is Mike. Welcome to my vlog about football in general and Burnley FC in particular. A vlog that has spent half a season defending referees and is now feeling betrayed on a level that Alanis Morissette would think was a bit much. Just so you ought to know. Where do you start? Where do you start with Friday night's game at home to Luton? A 1-1 draw that was an absorbing, a fascinating and excellent game of football, and I'm going to try and stay away from what shall henceforth be known as the incident for as long as possible, because I thought it was a damn good game of football between two good sides. When people turn around this year and say that the promoted sides from last year are the worst ever to come up from the Championship, just show them that game as an example. We had two excellent sides going at it. It was an absorbing and interesting game, not the most chance-filled game, but an interesting game, especially for those who are enjoying the idea of a game of football and not seeing it as some kind of spectacle that they just experience through the TV or something like that. I thought Luton were very good. They were everything you expect them to be. They are organised, they are prepared, they are quick, they are physical, they are strong. I'm glad that they are doing better than some people hoped, even rather than expected in the Premier League. I am glad to see that, for instance, Ross Barkley. I thought Ross Barkley was a pleasure to watch. He is one of the great what-ifs of the past decade of English football, a talent that was not wasted by him, but by football, if you know what I mean. And to see him slotted into the Luton side and working his magic in the midfield was a pleasure to watch. There was some talk, if I remember rightly, of him coming to Burnley in the off-season. That would have been a great signing, but I think he didn't fit the profile of what we were trying to do as a club. He's found his space in Luton. Great. No problem there. Really enjoyed it. On the subject of Luton, if you think James Trafford was a downgrade in terms of distribution from Aro Muric, the defence gives you Kaminsky. Oh my word. That is what it could be like. That is what passing from the back and failing to do so actually looks like, as opposed to what you think it looks like. Yeah, and it was, amusing to see him, spraying balls into the stands, mainly. Well, all the time. And also amusing, and I'll probably get to that, for a second season in a row to end up in the back of the net in front of the Jimmy Mack. For Clarence, three at the back worked well, I thought. I was worried about the defensive structure, but I thought the three at the back worked well. I thought Halmar Ekdal, said it before, founding member of the Halmar Ekdal fan club. Love the guy. I wish we'd see more of him. I wish he was first on the team sheet. He looked like a Rolls Royce back there. Physical, covering everything. Dara O'Shea, I thought, had a good game. Alder Keel, a sort of left back, had a good game. Vitinho had a good game. Foster, absolute beast up front. He was, going at it physically against, defenders who were bigger than him. But he was going at it. He was absolutely superb. Zeki Amdouni, oh boy. For every 2 moments of brilliance that you get from Zeki Amdouni, you get 5 where you absolutely want to throttle him. He is such a frustrating player. You don't want to yell at him so much, because there is going to be moments where he's going to do something. But he's got to learn that all the flicks and tricks in the world are going to work against the Championship defence. They are not going to work against the Premier League defence. And I don't care if one of them comes off, because 99 of them have failed. And it's getting very, very annoying for a team and a style that needs to have the football. He gives it away so much, but he doesn't give it away by being tackled or anything like that. He gives it away by a stupid flick, a trick, something like that is just not going to work. And he needs to stop doing it. It's massively, massively annoying. But then he's in the right place when he actually stops doing that, when he actually thinks about being a striker or what a striker should be doing, he ends up in exactly the right place to finish the goal, the run-off from Odebert. So, such a frustrating player. Such an annoying player. VK and co must tear their hair out on the sidelines when they see that. You can see, like I say, the potential, but it's just driving me particularly up the wall with that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the way we're going to play. We're going to play on that knife edge. We're going to have these young players. We're going to let them play that kind of style. It's frustrating sometimes. It's brilliant at others. We had an entire season of it being amazing to watch. We go, this time it's just can you please learn a little bit of pragmatism, a little bit of smarts? And I don't think it's naivety either. I think it's more arrogance in Amdouni's case. He still thinks he can do it, despite the evidence to the contrary. And it's bugging the living shit out of me every single time. But anyway, so we shall now get to the incident. I don't really want to talk too much about the actual ins and outs of what happened. That sounds really, really odd. I want to talk about some things that has raised, the incident has raised. We've all been in a stadium where it's deflated at a moment's notice, at a goal, at a late penalty, at something happening, and the place has gone from there to there because of something. And it's maybe your anger, it's deflation, it's frustration, it's whatever. That's the first time I've ever been in a stadium that is stunned into silence due to confusion, due to bewilderment, due to 20,000 people looking at each other and going, did that thing happen that I think happened? Did I see what I thought I saw? Because other people on the pitch didn't see it, or one other person on the pitch didn't see it, and someone with the benefit of multiple camera replays and multiple slow motions didn't see it. But 20,000 people in the stadium did. And that feeling of confusion as people are looking around and trying to understand, what are they going to trust? The thing that is being told is being happened, or their own lying eyes? And that confusion has stayed with me for the last 48 hours. I genuinely, I do understand why it happened. I understand what happened. I understand why it happened. And ultimately, the ref screwed up and the VAR decided to cover his mate's arse rather than do the right thing. The official explanation is that it was just a collision between two players. Okay? That's the rule. It was just a collision. The referee's opinion, it was just a collision. Okay. Right. So can someone explain to me why that type of collision is whistled 2, 3, 4 times a game, 10, 20 times a weekend across a division, however many 100 times a season over a couple of decades? That collision, according to the rules, is given as a defensive foul every single time. And people say that it wasn't enough contact to be a foul. Well, that's kind of weird, because we know exactly what a contact is required for it to be a foul inside the penalty box, because we've seen it 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Duran for Villa against Burnley, Jota for Liverpool, Fernandes for Man United. We know what the contact required is for a foul to occur inside the penalty box, because we've seen it 3 times. The referees on the pitch have blown, the elite referees have blown 3 times, been backed up 3 times by the VAR. So we know what the level of contact is that is required. And yet, every time it happens, there is a corner come in. We know what a foul looks like for a corner, because the referee will give it 2, 3, 4 times. But he'll always give it to the defensive team, despite the fact that we have set the bar for contact in the penalty box. It's kind of weird, isn't it, that it's always the defensive team that gets the benefit of the foul. And what's more, you could argue in the incident that it was the right of the Luton player to stand his ground and for the goalkeeper to go around him. But again, that's not what happens, is it? The ball comes in for a corner. An attacking player, stands there, stands his ground, impedes the goalkeeper, and it's a foul. 2, 3, 4 times a game. 10, 20 times a weekend. Football works on 2 levels. It works on rules and it works on conventions. Like I say, we've saw 3 times in the past fortnight what is a penalty according to the rules. Duran, Jota, Fernandes. By the way, with Fernandes, it doesn't matter about diving. It doesn't matter how bad the dive is or anything like that. That is ignored. If Bruno Fernandes genuinely was hurt, as much as he's pretended to over his career, his legs would actually be scar tissue below the knees. But it doesn't matter. They all dive like they've been shot, but there was contact, so we have the standard. So now we know what the rule is. But you're not allowed to apply that rule, are you? Because if it was, then every game would finish 14-12, with each team getting 8 penalties for fouls at corners. Harry Maguire would no longer be able to drape his hands over an opponent anymore, and that's his career ended, because we've set the criteria, right? But no, because that's where the other part comes in. That's where you have a convention. Players jostle for position, and if a goalkeeper is impeded by an opposing player standing his ground, the ref blows for a defensive free kick. It's never, ever, ever, by the way, a penalty. And often, when the whistle blows, the ball hasn't made it across the 18-yard line from the corner, so the goalkeeper is nowhere near it, but the referee blows every single time. We see it so often, 2, 3, 4 times a game, 10, 20 times a weekend. That is a convention. So we have rules and we have conventions. We know what a rule is and we know what a convention is. Right up until the point when it isn't. Friday wasn't. For some reason, a rule became a convention and a convention became a rule. And that's where the confusion comes from. That's where the what the fuck comes from. Because we as fans, we watch the games, we know how the game operates, we understand the conventions of the game. And part of my reason for defending referees often on this vlog is because I try to understand the inner workings of the game. I've got one of those brains that requires me to figure out why something happened. It's not just enough for something to happen. I have to know why something happened. And that's why I try to understand why a decision was made, why a thing happened, and what the outcome, why did we get to that outcome. And that's sometimes I explain in the vlog why. But I can't explain that one because the convention is that is every single time, 999 times out of 1,000, that is a free kick. And I said earlier it was about the VAR covering his mate's arse. That's what it was. Because the VAR official who decided that was a rule that had not been broken, there was not sufficient contact, this week or next week will be refereeing a Premier League game and the ball will come in from a corner and he will blow his whistle for impeding the goalkeeper. VAR, maybe it's supposed to come in for a clear and obvious error. I don't know whether that was a clear and obvious error. I think it was a clear and obvious error. VAR should not have stepped in, the referee missed it, and it wasn't a clear and obvious error. VAR does not step in on a clear and obvious error. That is the rule. Except when it does. Remember 2 years ago when Ashley Barnes was called for a handball away at Spurs for a penalty? The referee missed it. The players missed it. The Spurs players never noticed. The Spurs crowd never noticed. The VAR noticed. It wasn't a clear and obvious error, but it was a penalty. But they stepped in, even though it wasn't a clear and obvious error. And then you have 20,000 people in the stadium questioning what they know about football. The best bit is, this is the bit. Changes back. They justified Friday. They justified the decision on Friday. This is how the rule is. And then on Saturday, it just changed back to how it was. You know, there was jostling, there was impeding, there was defensive free kick, 2 or 3 times a game, 10 or 20 times a weekend. We didn't see penalties. That didn't set a standard for contact. When you have the temerity to ask the question, you get told, well, that's the rule. But you've seen the convention. You've seen it. You're getting gaslit. You're getting gaslit by people who are covering their arse for their own mistake. And I hate using the word gaslight because it's used by right-wing conspiracy theorists to, talk about a whole bunch of things where, they'll argue that the sky isn't blue and grass isn't green. Oh, that's just the elites gaslighting you. But this is gaslighting. As fans, we demand an explanation. We have seen this for decades. We have seen this week in, week out for decades. And then suddenly it doesn't happen. And the one thing you're expecting, we have been told that VAR corrects these issues. That is what it is there for. That is what you're also told. And it doesn't happen. Because they're covering their mate's arse. And they're gaslighting you. And they're pointing to the rule book and saying, yeah, it's a rule. Oh, no, conventions, that's not in the rule book. This is in the rule book. That's okay. That's in the rule book. The top referees in the country would rather lie to you than they would admit that one of them, who is a friend or a colleague, made a mistake in a moment. Like I say, it's a form of gaslighting and it's a form of cowardice as well. Disallowing an injury time equaliser in a match between 2 relegation candidates is a big decision with huge ramifications. It's a nasty situation to find yourself in. There are millions of pounds riding on what happens in that moment. But that's the fucking job. You don't get to fucking hide behind your rule book just to protect your friend. Maybe we'll get a letter of apology, another one. Does it make you feel any better? Not really. Everyone gets a letter of apology. You don't even got to frame it, you just stick them in the bottom drawer. Because every club has got a letter of apology. And there won't be a fuss kicked up either. There won't be any changes. VAR will continue to fail. And I was a supporter of VAR, but VAR is going to fail. But we're stuck with it, and it's going to fail because the people running VAR are too concerned with covering their own arses than they are in doing the job. In a week of post office horizon scandals, it was a very trite comparison, but that was just arse covering on a global or an industrial scale. And here we see it again, arse covering, and that's all it is. It's just arse covering. And you walk away from the game, you walk away from the stadium, and you wonder why you bother. Because it's been hard enough this season already. And there's such a disconnect going on. It's felt a very disjointed and disconnected season. It feels like you don't start. It feels like the season has never really got going. It just stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And you don't have that rhythm, you don't have that connection or anything like that. And then you walk away from the game on Friday night and you just feel disconnected. You don't understand the thing you have seen. You start questioning yourself. I've been watching the Clarets for 30 years. I'm questioning myself. What did I see? Why did that not happen? Why did that thing that happens 2, 3 times a game, 10, 20 times a weekend, not happen? Why did the people who's in charge of making it happen, not once, but twice, tell you don't trust your lying eyes? So yeah, it's been a very disconnected season. And it's going to continue to be a disconnected season because, normally you would pick yourself up and go again. But you can't because now we have a winter break. We've just had Christmas, we've had the scheduling, the moving all around, Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 5:30 o'clock, 7:45. Oh, by the way, credit to Luton fans for actually coming up at very, very short notice. I thought that although we all knew it was going to happen, I thought that the idea of moving a Premier League game would, at 5 days' notice, would cause more of a fuss in the media. But it's only Burnley and Luton, So who gives a shit? There's more important things for The Guardian and The Sun to cover. I believe Eric Ten Hag, one of his Amazon deliveries, arrived late this week. So obviously that's more important to cover. But that sort of thing does not help you connect to your club and connect to this season. And next up, we have a winter break, and then Man City away. Outscored 28-0 in our last 8 matches. And guess which idiot bought a ticket? Because that's what you're supposed to do as a football fan. That's what you're supposed to do. You follow your team. There are highs, there are lows, there are ups, there are downs. But the game is the game. Or at least you think it's the game. And I've got my City ticket. I'm going to go. I'm going to go in, with a tiny amount of hope and a lot of expectation of what is going to happen. But I go because I'm a Burnley fan and that's what we do. I'm a hopeless idiot because I'm a Burnley fan. This is what I signed up to. This is, where I am. The thing is, you kind of keep going. You keep going because that's what you signed up to. That's part of being a football fan is. But incidents like Friday, they make you wonder why. They really make you question why you're doing it. I'm happy to be an idiot. I'm happy to have signed up to this football club 30 years ago for better, for worse. Not a lot of better, quite a lot of worse, but that's the deal. That's the deal I made. And I might be an idiot to make that deal, but I did it. And I've had a great time in 30 years doing it. But when you see things like Friday happen, and then you see the fallout, when you get lied to about what happened by people who ought to know better for reasons that have nothing to do with football, I kind of think to myself, am I an idiot or am I a sucker? If you've got any comments about this video, please feel free to leave them down below and I will respond where I can. If you liked it, click the like button. And if you like what I do, have a look around the rest of the channel and click subscribe to be notified when I produce new content.